What's up, y'all? We back with another episode of Define Your Legacy. Again, I'm your host, Steve Elijah McBee. Welcome back. What's good, Justin, man? How you doing, man?
What up, man? I'm glad to be here.
For sure,
Hopefully we can get some, good content out there, man. Just like usual, like how you normally do.
You already know, man. It's going to be another dope episode on the way. So let's get right into it, man. For those that may not know, just introduce yourself if you could.
My name is Justin Royce, and I kind of dabble in just about everything. You see what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to investment. That's kind of like where I make most of my money and sustain myself. But I'm very interested in entertainment and the arts. So a lot of my money ends up going into those areas as well. So you can just ask me just about anything in either area, and I'm pretty sure I know at least a little bit to kind of help somebody in that regard.
For sure. So overall investor, I would say let's tap in right into real estate. What are your thoughts, I guess, as a whole when it comes to real estate?
So speaking from a personal experience, real estate was one of the first major investments that I got. As soon as I graduated UConn, that was my thing. Like I was working really quickly, but I said, you know what? I'm diving directly into real estate. And what I decided to do, as opposed to move out, get an apartment and spread my wings a little bit, I started to stay home, stack my money up, and make use of that FHA loan, that 3.5% down. I ended up getting a 3-family house in a local town nearby to me, and I rented it out, man. That was the first thing that I did. It's one of my top 2 investments, if I'm going to call it. Okay. And I can't really say anything too negative about it. I think everybody that is young, especially my young minorities, we should be owning houses and real estate properties, because over time, it's one of those like surefire ways to build wealth generationally.
Yeah. So what would you say, though, to someone who might be like, I guess, scared or hesitant to get into real estate?
Well, I think the biggest thing for the young adults, if you are scared, is listen, worst case scenario, everything goes belly up. By the time in which everybody starts to look for their house around maybe 35 to 45 years old, you would be able to, start from scratch again. Fact. So I would say take that risk because your youth is on your side. And being that you're able to rebound so quickly, you should be good. If you are scared, though, understand something. Like everything is not going to be cut and dry and easy, but those risks are what bring the rewards. So if you decide that you want to go to a safe route, you may be able to, have the peace of mind of, not having any stress or anything like that. But if you decide to go out your comfort zone a little bit, you're in a situation where it pays great dividends. So take that risk. Take that leap.
And it's definitely dope too, because, you're a young real estate investor. I think sometimes when people hear, at least, especially, coming out of college or whatever, it's like, okay, I need to reach a certain age and then I can do it, but as someone who's young in the game, that's really important. And you mentioned it too, with time being on your side. I think, the sooner you start, the better, right?
Yeah, man. I was 22 when I bought my first property. I was 22. I'm 27 now, about to turn 28 this month. So that's about 6 years as a real estate investor. And listen, it grows you up. You see what I'm saying? You're in a situation in which you start to understand who you are in the world, how to manage people, etc. And you start to appreciate your hard work being given directly back to you in a monetary fashion. So listen, I advise it. I'm speaking from experience. If you're young, take that risk. I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all take risk in other dynamics of your life.
Yep.
And you might as well just do it when it comes to something that could pay you back almost immediately.
Yeah. So I guess walk me through a little bit through that whole process of, use the term FHA and then use the 3.5%. Just kind of walk me through that.
No problem. So basically, when it comes to real estate, people may be hesitant because they feel as though they don't have enough money. What America does, which is pretty good, is they allow Americans to use something called an FHA loan. And what an FHA loan is, a first-time homeowner's loan. And what they do is they say for every total amount of the property, we're going to charge you 3.5% for a down payment, and then we'll ensure that you get a mortgage to take care of the rest. So how that's broken down is for every $100,000, you have to put up $3,500 for a down payment in order to secure a loan, and then use that money to own the house. Yeah. So that's the first thing that you're going to need to be able to do in order to acquire a property, is be able to, afford that 3.5% down. I say be a little bit safe, and as opposed to going to 3.5%, go to 5%, because you may have closing costs, you may have to spend for inspections and other things. It gives you a little bit more of a leeway.
Okay.
So for every $100,000 to be safe, I would say, stack about $5,000 to the side.
Okay.
So let's say you have your money. Let's say you got 10 grand. You want to get a $200,000 property. Now what you have to do is speak to somebody who is then able to give you a mortgage. Now, you may be able to talk directly to a bank, but what I did was I spoke to a mortgage broker. And what that person does is essentially speaks to other lenders on my behalf. They give my profile, where I work, my credit history, the amount of money that I'm making consistently, my tax returns, etc. They make it pretty. They shop me around, and then once I get somebody who is able to, lend that money, they will be able to pair those two together. And then you get a pre-approval letter. That pre-approval letter essentially says, "Hey, I'm a lender. I'm interested in giving you money, and here's the amount of money I'm willing to give you based upon your profile." That pre-approval letter is then used for you to be able to essentially shop around. It's like a guaranteed card for you to say, you know what, I'm able to afford up to about $200,000. Talk to a real estate agent. They'll show you houses that are around that area with the $200,000 as a max. From there, you see which one you like, and then
it's just like that.
Go and purchase your house just like that.
So with that though, was it a property or a home that you were living in, or was it something that you said, I'm gonna stay away from? I just wanted to kind of rent it out.
So so with an FHA loan specifically, you're supposed to. You're supposed to live in the apartment. You're supposed to live in the property.
Hey man, don't get in trouble. You say something here, man.
Listen,
hey man,
listen.
Don't say that crazy.
All I'm saying is what they say. I'm just saying what they say. You're supposed to legally live there, I think, between 6 to 9 months, because they want that to be your first property. Now, I know people who may have not necessarily done that with their first property and lived there. However, rule of thumb, if you're paying your bills, nobody really cares too much. Just make sure you're paying your bills, make sure you're paying your mortgage. But what I will say is, if you want to follow the book, yes, you're supposed to live in there as your first home, your first time buying that home. You're supposed to live in there for at least 6 to 9 months. Okay. What I personally did was I bought a 3-family property, and I was able to, get it rented out with multiple families. So regardless of whether or not I decided to live in there or not, I still was able to get passive income with the other 2 units.
Passive income. Okay. So let's talk about the duration of that process, right? Let's say today was June 1st. Okay. And I wanted to go out and buy a rental property. I want to use that FHA. I want to use a 3.5%. If you had to guess, just off the top of your head, obviously everyone's situation is different, process, all that.
Right.
How long do you think it would take to actually get and have a property under my name starting on June 1st?
Believe it or not, and you might not believe this, but 6 years ago today, June 1st, was when I started.
Wow.
I literally to the exact day.
Wow.
The exact day. I graduated May 10th. June 1st is when I started my position, and I spoke with the mortgage lady, literally June 1st in person.
Oh, so you wasn't wasting time.
I wasn't wasting no time, bro. That was the only thing that was on my mind. So yeah, I'll tell you what my specific experience. It took me until December, I want to say 15th or the 2nd, the beginning of the 3rd week of December to actually close. Now I know people where that happened a lot quicker. I know people where that happened a lot later. In this market right now, houses are flying off the market, so it's very hard to secure the one that you actually want for yourself. However, in other markets and other periods of times, you might be in a situation in which you were able to, lock in and get it done within a month.
Right.
My initial closing dates were within like 3 months, but due to certain factors and other things coming up, I ended up closing in December. But I was glad I was able to get it done before the end of the year.
Right. And so when I hear that in terms of 6 months starting in, June, finishing in December, that process, you can't spend anything crazy, right? During that time, everything,
right.
They got their eyes on you like a hawk, almost, right?
Right. Yeah. So the thing about your spending habits is you want to keep them as consistent as possible. If you're in a situation in which you're saving money in order to get the down payment, what I would advise is to get that down payment, put it to the side, and just let it sit there. Because number one, they don't want to see a huge lump sum of money just being shifted into your account. They want to see how that was accrued. because who's to say? You could get that money anyway. You see what I'm saying? And
Right.
and mortgage lenders want to know that you're getting legitimate income over a period of time, as opposed to being in a situation in which you were able to just get a mass amount of money, whether it be gambling or any other illicit means, for you to just get it quickly. That's not as credible. So, being that that's the case, I would say, listen, that $10,000, if you were to have maybe 15,000, depending on how much you have for that down payment, that 5%, I would say, put that to the side, operate as normal, give yourself a little cushion. Don't do anything too crazy when it comes to spending. And just make sure that you're on top of your game when it comes to, clocking in, getting your pay stub situated. And you wouldn't necessarily have to save too much more money on top of that. But I would still say, listen, the more money going into that signing day, the better, because you're just going to get more kickback out.
Facts. So why'd you go the multifamily route as opposed to the single family route?
That's a great question. I purely was looking for an investment property. So it wasn't a situation in which King wants to make a little cameo.
What's up?
King, sit down. So I was purely looking for an investment property. It wasn't a situation in which I wanted to live there long term. It wasn't a situation in which I wanted to be in a situation and do a rehab property.
That was gonna be one of my next questions.
Yeah, so that's great. I could actually segue it now. There's two different types of home ownership that I think. It's short-term and long-term home ownership. Now, short-term home ownership is when you're in a situation where you buy a house, it may not be up to par, or you may want to improve on it, and then you sell it. A lot of people call that a flip.
Okay.
I didn't have enough money to buy a house that wasn't able to be lived in immediately. So I decided, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a house that can be lived in, and I'm not going to flip it. I'm going to sell it and rent it out. So that's why I wanted to get a 3-family, because a 3-family allowed me to not get a commercial property, but I still was able to get multiple units occupied, and it was able to, allow me to gross the most amount of money possible.
So who determines the actual rent from the tenants? Is it you? Is it the bank, or what's that like?
So technically, I determine the rent as the landlord. Because I own the property, I then get to decide whatever happens with that property. Now, that is the truth within certain means. I can't just charge an astronomical amount for rent, because that could be price gouging, and I could be subjected to certain laws that do not allow me to do that. I can't charge too much more than what it's worth, based upon the area and based upon what I'm offering. However, I do have a window in which what I can charge is totally up to me. I could say, listen, this person could live here for free if I decided to. I could say, this person has to pay $1,200 or $1,300 a month, as long as it's within reason, and it's marketed in a way that is fair. I could charge whatever I want to.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Obviously, we'll never take advantage of a situation, but just the idea 100%. Of ownership, right? Like you're the person in charge of all that. So how's life as a landlord though? Because I know obviously like it all sounds sweet, right? It's the idea of ownership. Okay, you got it. At the age of 22, all that. But how is the actual life of being a landlord?
So being a landlord, there are pros and cons. The pros definitely outweigh the cons. But let's start with the cons.
Yeah.
At times, you're going to be on call doing things that you may not want to do. You do have to manage and make sure that you're taking care of people who are living within your facility. So there may be a situation in which your facility is not up to par, and you have to rectify that problem or dilemma within a certain time scale. There's a lot of different caveats that you may have to physically be there or come out of pocket in order to rectify certain situations. There's a lot of different caveats that may arise that you have to put yourself in a position to take care of, right? It's like being the coach on a team. You are the front line in terms of the team, and you have to make sure that whole situation is taken care of.
Facts.
But the pros when it comes to life as a landlord is, once you are in a situation where, I keep saying situation, but listen, once you're in a spot,
I got you. Yeah, I got you. I hear you. Yeah. I hear you.
Once you're in a spot where the house is self-sufficient, there's not much maintenance that needs to be taken care of. the tenants, you got good tenants, you vetted the tenants, and they are, on time with their rent. They're not damaging your property. It's very hands off. When you have people that respect your property and they're there long term, life as a landlord is just life as your regular 9 to 5. There's not much involvement as opposed to monthly, making sure that there's a checkup, making sure that the property is maintained, and then obviously receiving your rental income.
Mm. So how'd you go about?
But don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The upfront beginning, like you definitely want to make sure you're hands on. You want to make sure that you know what's going on with your property. You want to make sure that everything is up to par, and it's going to take a lot of attention. I say for the first maybe 1 or 2 years, you want to make sure that that's one of your major focuses, because you want to know the in and outs of your property, how it should be maintained, who's in there, and what they're doing. Because, as I said, it's your property, and that mortgage is going to be 30 years, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So why you decide to be the landlord as opposed to hiring like a property manager? You just wanted the hands-on experience?
Yes, 100%. That's the answer. When I first started out, I wanted to make sure that I was the point man. I wanted to make sure that I knew what was going on, all the intricacies, all the different caveats of whatever problem may have arose over time. But now I'm in a situation where, listen, property manager, 100%, like I'll give you a percentage and I don't even want to talk about it. Just make sure that we get paid, because I understand the market now. But I'm the type of person that wants to, actually understand what's going on before I start to become hands off, because then that way I know that I'm not subjected to someone else's opinion. I'm not subjected to being ill-informed, and I'm not subjected to paying more for something than it's worth, or being overcharged.
Got you. And I asked that too, because like if someone were, to try and get into real estate and be an investor, but they wanted to be lazy, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. They just say, you know what, I got the money, but I don't want to do any like type of plumbing. I don't want to deal with like, electricity. I don't want to do any of that stuff, but I do want to get involved in real estate. Is that possible?
100% possible, especially if you have more money. Now, my personal experience, I was just out of school. I didn't really have that much money. And I didn't really have a fail safe either. Like my parents said, listen, you go ahead, decide you're going to do this. It's not that you're on your own, but you're going to be a man, you're going to be a boss and take care of it yourself. So being that that's the case, a lot of times I had to do some of the maintenance myself, you understand? But the more money you have, like obviously the less hands-on you have to be, because you can just hire somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
I would still advise, even if you do have a lot of money, if you're just jumping into real estate, to dedicate some time to understanding what's going on specifically to your house before you get a property manager. And then as you grow, you can be more and more hands-off.
Yeah.
That's just my advice. But the more money you have, the less work you have to do. I mean, that's with any market.
And that's a good point too, because Lonray talked about it on a previous episode. He was like, you need money to make money, right? Like, in my opinion, you can't be lazy and broke.
You can't.
You
gotta choose.
You can't be lazy and broke. I think you can definitely be lazy, because some people are lazy but smart. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, whether numbers, you just kind of and there's nothing wrong with that.
Listen,
but what
working smart is my middle name.
Exactly. You just gotta work smart. It's the idea of like, all right, if I don't want to work, that's fine, because I know what I'm doing. Right. I now have
100%.
the education to now prepare myself for that.
Right.
So from a first step, right, when someone hears this episode, naturally they're gonna, say, all right, you know what, I can be a real estate investor too. But what should the first step be after, saving and make sure you have the funds? Do you contact a broker? Do you drive around looking for properties? Do you decide what state you invest in? What's usually step one?
So the first step, the initial, like 100% first step, is internal. If you decided you're going to be a real estate investor, you are now a real estate investor. Now you just have to carry out what's necessary in order to acquire your first property. So once you internally realize that that's something that you want to do, act as such that that's the case. Now, the actual tangible thing that you may need to do is, obviously, like you said, save the money. Once you get the money, I would say formulate a relationship with a mortgage broker or a mortgage lender that you can trust and you can have great conversations with, so that they can know your goals and that you could be in a situation in which they are able to advise you on your route to owning your first property. So I would say the mortgage lender or the mortgage broker would probably be one of the most imperative relationships that you would need, because anybody can look at a house, anybody can go to Zillow and say, I'm going to get this house, or talk to a real estate agent. But until you get that pre-approval letter, you're really not doing anything tangible.
Yeah. So how was it when you got that letter? How'd you feel?
It felt good. I'm not gonna lie. It did feel good. I'm the type of person that celebrates when it's done. So a lot of you remember what Kobe said, right?
Yo, I promise you, I promise you, that's the first thing that came to my mind when you said that. The
right. You remember what he said? The job's not finished. The job's not finished.
Job's not finished yet, though.
Yeah, it's like, okay, the job's not finished. And that's the type of mentality I've always had as well. And yeah, it does feel good to go as a young adult or even an older person to say, like, you know what, I have a pre-approval letter and I'm qualified to buy the house that I'm looking at right now. That's an amazing feeling, because you're inside the house and you're literally looking at it, shopping like, maybe, maybe not. And it's a property that you're going to have probably for the rest of your life and for generations to come if you upkeep it the correct way. So that is a good feeling. However, the best feeling is making sure when that closing day comes and you sign and you take your pictures, you pop your champagne and you get that work done, that feels even better. So win that championship and get that closing situated. But the pre-approval letter is definitely a huge step on that journey for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine too. And just kind of doing the math on that for those out there that thinking that it might be either difficult or just in terms of saving. So 3.5%, you mentioned this before. If it's 100,000, right, and you have 3,500, that's a start. I mean, you mentioned the 5%. I know, just to have that extra cushion. But just so people can kind of lock it in their brain, well, damn, if you don't have $100,000, right, you can still get involved in real estate. So if it's
100%,
like crib, that's 200,000, you need 7K, right? So on and so forth.
Full disclosure, my first property was valuated at about $250,000. Like I said, I was fresh out of school, working my first job. I promise you, I did not have $250,000 in my pocket to buy a house. But for 6 months, I decided that I was going to get to 12 to 15,000. That was for sure. I was going to sit there. I was not going out. I was going to sacrifice to the point in which I needed to, so that I could get to the point in which I was eligible to get that pre-approval letter. But yeah, listen, you're going to pay that in rent at some point in time anyway. So if you're a young adult, you might as well, put that money back into your pocket, because when you spend that money, you're owning something. And when you own something, you're never really spending the money and giving it away to somebody else. You're just transforming it into equity. When you pay rent, however, that money that's out the system. You're giving that to someone else. But when you are paying towards your mortgage, you're just building equity in something that you already own. It's a difference.
So was it worth it in terms of, like, you said that you made sacrifices, you know what I'm saying? You didn't go out as much or at all, but just the idea of, like, all right, I'm sure during that time, it's like, yes, I want this rental property. Damn, maybe I want to go out. And so tough decisions have to be made. So would you say it was worth it at the end of the day?
5,000%. It's like I said, it was one of my best. Getting into real estate that early was one of my best investment decisions. It's probably top two, top three. And the reason why it's not number one is because I just value, like, the entertainment and other things a little bit more, because from a personal level. But in terms of a financial thing, yeah, man, like, taking that sacrifice at that moment in time, so that it could pay dividends over the course of 5, 6, 10, 20, 30 years is no question worth it. I don't even remember what parties was going on that weekend that I skipped out on.
There's always going to be.
It doesn't even matter. There's no party or no type of situation that could be that important that you're not able to better your future each month.
Yeah, that's real. Parties don't give you passive income unless
that's a fact.
A party promoter. But just the idea.
Right.
And the reason why I asked that is because I think sometimes, let's say a property is worth 200,000, right? And you needed the 7K, and someone only had, let's say, 2,000 in their account. They might say, well, damn, I don't have 7K, so let me just go blow it somewhere else. But the idea is, when you save, right, naturally you'll hit 7K. But just because you're not there just yet, it's like, all right, let me go spend it on some garbage. No, just
it's a lot easier to disqualify yourself. But you shouldn't disqualify yourself. That's why I said mentally, that's the biggest step. when you say like, listen, I'm thinking I should get into real estate. That's something I want to do. And you verbalize that and internalize that, that's the biggest step, because $0 and $2,000 doesn't matter, because you know, regardless of how much money you have right now, in the future, you will make yourself eligible to purchase that property. And that starts inside. If you don't really have that inside of you already, it may be a little bit harder to achieve that feat, because if you don't have a lot of money coming in, there are going to be sacrifices that need to be made. So it's either sacrifice now or, sacrifice later.
Facts.
But you're gonna have to pay.
I say you're gonna have to sacrifice. I think if you really want to reach that life, you're gonna have to sacrifice something. And it's okay too to sacrifice. I think, what I'm saying, like, I think we're trying to make that narrative cool and popular, if you will. Like, it's already like,
it should be.
Like, everyone has their own lane. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people have a lot of properties already. Some people are, just looking to get started. But you have to know what lane you're in. You feel me? And then
it's a testament to your character. Like, if you decide that you're gonna sacrifice for something that you want, listen, I'm pretty sure you can speak to sacrifice for the amazing position that you have been in. I can speak to sacrifice. It's unique to the individual, but at the end of the day, if you're not sacrificing for a specific or a greater means, more than likely it's going to be harder to achieve. Period.
Yeah, and you got to ask yourself, what's your purpose? And I guess what's your legacy, right?
Gotta define your legacy, man. Gotta define your legacy.
You see it. But so I asked, obviously the first steps in terms of the money that might be needed to get started. But you mentioned too, the mortgage broker. So how did you find yours? Like, was it someone that you already knew? Did someone put you on?
Yes, somebody definitely put me on. My parents were really big into real estate right around the time there was the huge market crash. So we didn't really survive with any properties or rental properties after that crash, besides the one we were living in. But we kind of, grew a little bit of knowledge there. One of my good friends from UConn that I met, his name is Azim. He was very interested in real estate at the same time. So we would kind of like look up certain people or real estate agents or mortgage brokers and talk about our experiences. And one of the mortgage brokers that he had a conversation with, struck a chord with him. And she was able to help him get his property. And around that same time, a couple of months later, she was able to help me. Okay. So it was, Google searches. We didn't have any prior relationship with them at all. Mind you, like we said, we first out of school, not much connections, very young. And if we're going to be completely honest, minorities that don't really have connections in this actual area. So, Google searches, presenting yourself, almost like going on an interview. When you look for a job, you look for a mortgage broker and you have a conversation with them. When they believe in you, they make things happen.
Yeah. Definitely, I would say, like, don't underestimate the power of Google. But the reason why I asked that is because you mentioned too that with minorities, I think a huge part of our culture is trust, right? And when it comes to relationships, but definitely money. And it's like, all your credentials, they're definitely, dope if I was talking to a mortgage broker, but there needs to be trust. And so the fact that, you're able to have that with your mortgage broker, if they're dealing with your money, that might be something, people kind of think about as well. Because I know
100%.
I know on the stock side, I know people like to have, choose stocks or real estate as if you can't do both. But stocks, I feel, me personally, it's a lot more individual based. Like, I control my portfolio. I don't need to look to my left. I don't need no mortgage broker. I don't need a financial advisor. Right. I'm good.
Yeah.
But real estate.
Because with real estate, there's a lot of moving parts. You're essentially using other people's money in order to pay yourself with real estate. With stocks, you're taking money out of your own pocket, hard-earned cash, and you're acquiring certain positions in order for it to be beneficial to you later on. Now, that's very important, and you should be doing both. I'm glad you mentioned that. You should be doing both. I did both around the same time. But when it comes to a situation with real estate, you're asking for a loan. You're asking for things to be borrowed. So, there's trust. There's more things that are necessary, and you need to make sure that you're able to put yourself out there a little bit, be a little bit more vulnerable, and allow yourself to formulate those relationships that's going to get that job finished.
Facts. And in addition to you saying you're using other people's money, I want to add something to it. You're using other people's money so that you can make money, right?
Right.
Like, it isn't like, you just ask for a loan to then go spend it on some garbage. Like, you're asking for a loan to then multiply it, right? Like, it's almost as if in a way you're giving a head start. So
you're starting a business.
Yeah, exactly. So So did you have like, or do you need an LLC to kind of get your first rental property?
No, you do not need an LLC to get your first rental property. The FHA is for each individual American. It's not necessary for you to be a business owner or whatnot. If you decide that you wanted to make it a business and then buy property or convert it to business later on, you definitely should have an LLC. But it's not necessary whatsoever. You could, as long as you are above the age, I think, of 18, and you have consistent income, you should be in a situation where you are deciding whether or not you want to jump into the real estate game. There's no classes or schooling you may need or anything like that. You just need to be able to, decide in your mind that that's something that you want to do, and start with the first step in saving your money.
Got you. So, I mean, would you say real estate is for everyone?
Yeah, everybody. The thing about real estate is this: you are owning something that is essential to human nature. You understand? You need shelter to live. You need food to live. And that's just something that's innate to the survival of mankind. Like, you're in a situation in which you need this to live. So when I say real estate is for everybody, you're going to be living somewhere anyway. Like, I don't know anybody that doesn't live anywhere, right? And if you're in a situation where you don't live anywhere, you're either between, you're just down, you're down on your luck at some point in time, but you're in between living situations. It's very dangerous not to be able to live somewhere consistently over time. So being that that's the case, you're going to be living somewhere anyway. That's like saying it's shelter for everybody. Yeah, it is. So you might as well own some form of shelter to either stay in it yourself, which is perfectly fine, or put in a position in which you're able to lease it out to other individuals and get paid for it.
Facts.
You don't necessarily have to be a business person every time, but you definitely should be owning property at some point in time throughout your life, regardless. I just challenge young minorities, male and female, to decide to lease out to other people, because now we're having generational wealth. And I think that's something that's very important for us, especially when it comes to ownership, because it's detached from the actual cash value. You're able to raise rent, lower rent based upon what's necessary. It's not 100% recession proof, but you have a huge layer of insulation. And it's very safe once you actually acquire a good standing property. You have insurance. You have other programs that make sure that you're taken care of if you're not able to pay each month the way that you thought you were able to. And it's something that the risk is very low on, but the reward is very high on. I think it's for everybody in that regard.
So, I mean, it's dope too, because it's another asset class, right? You just added it to your whole overall, general portfolio. It's not like it has to be the only thing you do, but
it's a good bedrock for your asset class too.
Yeah,
great bedrock.
Yeah, and I'm sure the taxes portion of it can kind of come into play too. Certain things that
it does.
You can write off, and things like that. Like
the write-offs are definitely pretty cool, man. Each time you gotta file those taxes, you need to write off. Listen, you'd be extremely happy.
Yeah, that's to me, like, that's a huge part of the game that I feel like doesn't get the respect it deserves, is taxes. Just the idea of like making money, what I'm saying, is dope, but like, unless you really keeping track of everything, the IRS gonna come knocking. You know what I'm saying? So
they're gonna get paid.
They gonna get paid. They're gonna get paid. So how do you keep track of that? Like, what are your I guess techniques in terms of just in that department, if you will, of real estate?
For taxes?
Yeah.
So the thing about real estate payments and tax payments is the way that your payment each month is set up accounts for taxes, it accounts for insurance, and it accounts for the mortgage. So your mortgage plus what they call escrow takes care of just about all your payments that are necessary outside of maybe like utilities. So you're in a situation where your insurance is being taken care of, your taxes are being taken care of, and the loan is being taken care of when the bank issues you how much you need to pay each month. If there's any discrepancies within that escrow, whether it may be more or less, towards the end of the year, the bank will let you know, and they'll either issue you the difference or you'll have to pay a little bit of the difference coming up. So they'll either issue you the difference or you'll have to pay a little bit of the difference coming up with a different monthly payment. So you don't really necessarily have to worry about taxes to make sure that the taxes on the property is paid, as long as you're making sure that your monthly payment is taken care of.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to write-offs and whatnot, there are a lot of different ways to use your property to serve you when it comes to potentially getting some of the money that you paid in taxes back. If you had any repairs on your property, that can be written off. That's one of the major things. If you had any updates, there's a plethora of different ways for you to be able to leverage your property in order to file your taxes and potentially get some of that money back. Your CPA is your best resource for that. But then again, if you use something like TurboTax or something like that, they'll ask you a lot of different questions that will, optimize your refund or your payment.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's definitely huge, in clutch in terms of, when we had that dialogue about taxes and paying and saving, getting the refund and all that. I think, from what I heard, real estate is definitely helps with that. It's definitely.
It definitely does. It definitely does. It's always good to be in a situation where you're able to get some money back that you weren't even accounting for, because then you're able to use that money and then potentially, like you said, either buy some stocks or maybe save it for another property.
Yeah. Wow. You can use that money to buy more stuff. That's going to get you more money. First thing that you said, anything about buying, something else that, isn't going to make you money. Just constantly once you get it, keep pouring it into, other things like that will continue to bring you even more value.
Liabilities is dead, man. We're not doing that no more. We own assets. We own assets.
Because the way I see it too, when it comes to like paying for, stuff like that, is like, it doesn't help you out in the long run, but like having real estate, and stock, and you talked about it, the idea of generational wealth. Those are things that are going to last a long time, right? And we're both young individuals. So when we look, down the line, I'm saying it's even better. Now, obviously, for those listening, regardless of your age, I'm saying just get started is always the most important thing. But especially for young people that might be getting to the game, like you said, you started tapping in right after college, which that is rare. So salute to you.
It is.
But even hearing about it now is dope, because obviously you have more knowledge now than you did when you first get started, just naturally, right? You
for sure.
More. So like, let's say I'm gonna call you an expert just for the sake of this situation, right?
Yeah.
Let's say, I'm saying you got a 10 out of 10 right now when it comes to what about real estate and your property specifically. Where were you? What number out of 10 were you when you first started on June 1st?
By June 1st, I was probably at like maybe a 6 or a 7. But it's kind of hard to say because there's not really that much. Guys, it's not rocket science. It's not like it's a situation where there's a lot of different things going on, moving parts, problems that arise all the time. It's a very simple step solution. Now, the reason why I say I was at a 6 or a 7 is because I didn't actually go through the process and understand how a mortgage broker did their job, how a lawyer was an instrumental in closing the deal, how a real estate agent was supposed to converse with other real estate agents in order to bring it to fruition. So being that I did not know all of these things from an experiential standpoint, I would give myself a 6 or a 7. But when it comes to just like the acquisition of knowledge, there's not much more to know than you already know going through that process. Now, the experience is definitely a big factor because once you actually have that property and you have to manage families or manage individuals that more than likely will be your age or older, or even younger sometimes, but being that that's the case, you're going to need to understand, who you are, what type of landlord you will be, what's required of you, etc. So I'll give myself maybe those 3 or 4 extra points because I actually went through it. But yeah, guys, it's not like it's a pop quiz, and if you don't know this answer, everything's gonna fail or anything like that. Everybody has just about a good understanding once they start that that process, and you don't really need to know much more after that.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that is, the idea of failing forward? Not necessarily saying that you failed in the beginning, but like you didn't need to know every single thing about every part of the exact business, you know, like just getting started. And then naturally, and I'm sure more people in that business that you start to network with and interact with, you know, you start to become more comfortable with. If you had a question, I'm sure, you know what I'm saying, you reach out to them or whatever. But just, you know,
well, you're speaking 1,000%, bro. You're 100% right. And I'm the type of person, I'm not about to sit here and learn every intricate detail of everybody's job, because that's what I'm paying you to do. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to know what the lawyer doing at middle of the night, because I'm paying him to do his job. So I'm not about to sit here and learn every intricate detail. Some people like doing that before they get involved. I would advise, listen, money is an instrument to make more money. So don't be so tight in your fist, because they won't be able to do his job.
Facts. And like I said, the idea of being like, can't be lazy and broke. And I mean, my biggest thing and concern, what I want to talk about is, you know, is it okay to be a lazy real estate investor? And you know, confirmed, you know, it's a possibility.
It's definitely a possibility. As I said, if you have more money, it's easier. But you can work your way into being in a position in which you're completely hands off, 100% hands off. You can hire somebody to do things that need to be done in terms of maintenance, and you could also hire a property manager if need be, and continue your life. It's just another stream of income for you. Totally hands off.
Fact. Okay, and so when you got started in it, did you anticipate that it wasn't going to be like a quick flip? Like, did you anticipate, did you know, like, all right, this is a little bit more, you know, of a long-term play. Obviously, you're in the passive income every month or whatnot. But like, this wasn't going to be somewhere, all right, I put in, you know, 10 racks, and then in 2 weeks, it's going to be 100 racks. Did you know that? And more importantly, were you okay with that?
That was my goal. Yeah. I wanted to be in a position where I had something I could count on monthly. I didn't want to be in a situation where I turned 10,000 and 100,000, because that's a one-time thing, and that $90,000, if I don't allow it to pay me over time, it's just going to go away too. So being that that's the case, I specifically sought out a property that I knew I would be able to invite people in even on closing day, and consistently over time charge a fair rent price, but still make a profit off of it. I did not want to sell it. I don't have plans in selling it. I did not want to have to do anything in terms of development or anything like that. So yeah, that was my goal, and I anticipated it. I was happy that was the case. I was very okay with not, you know, being in a situation where 10,000 turned to 100,000. I'll pay off my mortgage and get this payment every month. I'll take that. Right. We could be risky in another market.
Yeah, everybody say you cool, just chill. You know what I'm saying? Get the check, keep it pushing.
Yeah. Keep it pushing, man. Build your empire.
Facts. Build your empire. I'm glad you said that. So speaking of empire, right? What's next for you? Because like I said, most people, I feel, when they get involved in real estate, it's later on in life. So because you started at such an early age, what's next on the agenda for you?
So the biggest thing for me is it's creating. I think the natural development when it comes to investors is being in a situation where you earn money. So you're going to work and getting a job. And then after you do that, the natural thing to do next is to invest your money, right? So you're in a situation where now I've earned my money, and now I'm investing my money, and I want my money to work for me. And then I think what's next after that, and this is where I am in my life right now, is creating something that can then generate income as well. So as you can see, all you see is all these R's. This is the Royce Empire. This is something that I'm very interested in. I wake up and I do every day. I like doing entertainment. I like educating people. I like sitting down with brilliant minds such as yourself, define your legacy, because I want to be able to create something that is beneficial for people that's not even necessarily specific to, you know, garnering more wealth, but it could help people when it comes to knowledge and getting them through their day as well. So I think this point in my life and going forward is making sure that I'm doing my best to create something that is going to mean something over time.
Facts. I mean, you mentioned, so it sounds like the idea of ownership is extremely crucial in all of this. I mean, you mentioned RR. So just talk to us a little bit about that. Feel free to, what I'm saying, promote yourself and just let everyone know,
100%, man. So like I said, I started in investing. It's my biggest thing. And my main goal when it came to investing was to be able to fund my dreams and the dreams of the people who are close and dear to me. And then in terms of the proximity to people who I am around, I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to acquire a decent amount of wealth, well, more than a decent amount of wealth within a short period of time. And I've been able to, take that and then diversify it into assets to sustain myself. But now I want to be in a situation where I can, now I want to be in a situation where I can then, build something with entertainment, whether I like to make music or rap or inform people. That's something I like to do. So that's what I'm doing and working towards just about every day. So when you see R, you want to see quality, whether it be on a real estate or investment standpoint, or whether it's in entertainment or educational.
And that's definitely dope too, because, you've been presented with options now, right? Like you have choices to kind of tap into multiple. And I think that's one of the beauties of being an investor, is that after a while, once you continue to do it, you can kind of take a step back and say, all right, I want to invest in this. I want to invest in that. I want to, what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
And the good thing, look.
And it's not so much,
No,
it's not so much tied to money. It's not so much tied to just money. Like when you're younger and you're trying to make as much money as possible, you try to invest in everything that's going to give you as much money. Like, I want more money. I want more money. But as you start to acquire more and more wealth, you should start investing in things that you're interested in. You might, might not get the biggest return ever, but you like what you're in. You like what you're involved in. And then you're able to invest in yourself. And hey, even if it's not bringing more money towards you, you're able to get a better quality of life or do the things that you're genuinely interested in. And that's what living really is, if you ask me.
Exactly. Because at that point too, it's almost like you're paying for your passion, right? You mentioned the idea of not, you know what I'm saying? But because you have other investments that you had prior, now it's like, all right, this is literally just for me. I'm not looking at it from like, all right, I got to get money from this. I got money. I mean, the investments are working now. So this is truly just for me, so that to me, like, is definitely dope, and salute to you on that.
Thank you.
No doubt. And so, one final question, the question that I kind of ask everyone at the end of every show is, how do you want to be remembered?
So I think the biggest thing for me is to make sure that everybody knows that when it comes to me, I was a wealth of knowledge that you could get for free. It wasn't a situation where I was trying to, acquire as much notoriety or money or whatever good thing that you might want to add into it just for myself. I wanted to, change the culture, change the mindset, and take care of my people as a whole, so that we could all, as a whole, take care of ourselves and not need anybody else. Understand that our lives matter. Understand that violence isn't the answer, and understand that over time, we are able to define our own legacies and not look to other people for validation. So if you guys remember me as the person who incrementally moved that step forward, my box is checked.
Back, you stand. No, you stand, bro. You good. You stand. But yeah, man. I mean,
appreciate it.
Definitely, no doubt. Definitely, I would say, a fire episode in terms of, us confirming and chatting and talking about, the FHA and how people can kind of get involved with 3.5%. Because I think, again, that's just something that a lot of people need to know. And, I'm not in anyone's pocket, but I think after a while, within our, community, if, people continue to save, we'll start to realize, like, oh yeah, I probably have 3.5% of this number of this property, like, because certain expenses add up, right? Like certain expenses add up. You know what I'm saying? Like a vacation here, a nice fit here. You know what I'm saying? A night out at the bar.
Nice fit here.
Yeah, like, when you start to connect the dots, like, hold on, like this is a property. Like my first month was a property. Like, and so, but the fact that, and I've always said this too, I'm always a big believer that you can always do both. Have fun as well as being an investor. But when you're only just having fun and that's it, your money isn't going anywhere important and nowhere isn't making money, you might be on the verge of danger. So that was really why I wanted to have you on, as well as just have, this podcast as a whole, just to really understand a little bit more about real estate and how people can get involved, utilizing that FHA as a first time. Because to me, I mean, I think that's a gem that, our people should know about. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, you got started young, right? Like you got started young. That is dope and fire and hopefully inspiring for those that's listening, because, not letting your age, because I'm sure too, when college students and even people in life in general, they hear episodes like this or whatever and think, man, one day when I'm,
right,
when I got grandkids,
you're not too young and not too old.
Yeah, like, just get started. Like even if you have to get started, just educating yourself, right? Like if you have a lot of money or you don't, just learn it. Just learn.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yeah, man. Just wanted to, say thank you for pulling up. Want to give you your flowers and whatnot. Obviously we all talk ball at UConn, man. That's never going to change. But conversations like this are always important, man. So, but yeah,
man. I really appreciate it.
For sure,
100%, man. I appreciate it. Anytime, let me know, regardless of the situation. I'm gonna make sure I pull up. We can talk to the people, make sure that they're educated. Like, as my final send off when it comes to real estate specifically, guys. Like, listen, own it. You'll be in a situation where it'll be beneficial for you later on. You're never too young, never too old. Just make sure that you decide, like you said, within your mind and internally, that's something that you want to do. Become your own boss, and get these steps situated for that financial freedom that you've been talking about and tweeting about all the time. Let's get it right. Facts, liabilities are dead. Let's get our assets up.
Facts. Take the necessary steps. So one last thing too. Just drop your socials everywhere and everything like that, so that people could, they want to check you out or have any questions.
So this is the Royce Empire. My name is Justin Royce, and my socials is Emperor Just, because if it's the Empire, I'm the Emperor. So Emperor Just, EMPERR. JUS, that's Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that type of stuff. So if you want to see some fire content, whether you want to be entertained or educated, pull up.
For sure. All right, y'all. So that does it in this episode of Defiant Legacy. Again, appreciate you guys for pulling up, man. Drop some jams as always, man. Much appreciated, man. So on that note,
bro, I want to see you back on the court too, man.
Facts. Only matter of time. You already know, man.
Say that.
For sure. But we'll link, because another reason why I had, the podcast, it wasn't just to educate other people, but also, what I'm saying, to have this dialogue between us two and just, continuing to learn in other areas and everything like that. So we'll definitely be in contact. Man. We'll definitely be in contact, man.
Call me anytime, man.
For sure. But all right, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode. We're going to see you on the next one. Be out.
Peace.